I've always been a sucker for a luxury barge, and this Mercedes E300 might just be the perfect blend of comfort and opulence for a motorway cruiser. But is a 2-litre engine really enough to maintain the drivability you expect from such a big coupe? My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. Before we get started, please like, subscribe and hit the bell so we can keep making this awesome content. Anyway, so a 2-litre engine might seem small in the grand scheme of things, but with 245 brake horsepower and 370 Nm of torque coming in at just 1400 RPM, it should be pretty nippy. Let's see how she does on the 30 to 70 sprint. Well, despite weighing in at over 1.7 tonnes, we still managed a time of just 6.11 seconds, which puts it right around a Stage 1 Ford Fiesta ST. Certainly quick enough for daily driving, but personally I'd probably get a Stage 1 map on this car to really get the most out of it. Now, the inside of any coupe should be a place built for easement of the mind and a shelter from the harshness of the outdoors. Thankfully, this E-Class does exactly that. Big low-slung seats, open pore wood and highly customisable ambient lighting make this a thoroughly relaxing cabin to travel in. The seats are the highlight for me though. They fit like a glove and keep you in place without being too firm around the edges. The dash can be specced with two 12.3-inch displays, and really they should be. This is the standard system, and whilst it has all the function and quality you expect from a Mercedes, it just doesn't have the flair or wow factor that I want from a car like this. Thankfully though, the rest of the cabin doesn't fall short. The turbine-style air vents of course look amazing, but also feel amazing to use. They just have that super satisfying click that never seems to get old. Even the two separate pieces of wood on the centre console are perfectly lined up to match each other's grain pattern. Each pattern is also unique to every car, making each E-Class very slightly different. The clock, whilst not essential, just adds that extra level of class into the interior. Overall, a very good cabin to spend time in. But what about the back? Now, this is where most coupes fall short. The rear of the C-Class is too small for an adult, but thankfully this E-Class is actually perfectly comfortable for an adult to sit in even over longer journeys. Legroom is good and headroom is just about good enough for me to sit up straight in. People over about 6'2" will struggle though. There's no armrest, which is slightly disappointing, but there's still two cup holders, climate vents and a little USB port hidden under a flap. Boot space is also surprisingly good. You have 425 litres with the seats up, enough for two big suitcases plus a small one. Fold the seats down though and you have enough room for almost anything you'd ever need to carry. Okay, last thing before driving, just look at these rear lights. How cool is that? Right, let's see what this luxury barge can handle. So what's it like driving a big luxurious Mercedes coupe? Well, as you would expect, initial impressions are very nice. Going over these speed bumps here, it just feels like, well, nothing. Pretty much a zero of the movement actually comes into the cabin. You just sort of get this general movement of the car. Even riding on the 20-inch wheels that this car has, the ride still feels very compliant over speed bumps. Steering is nice and light, fairly similar to a Mercedes C-Class, believe it or not. Brake pedal is very easy to modulate. Mercedes are always really good at getting that right. Some cheaper cars, you can sort of push the pedal, nothing really happens, then you push it a little bit more and your face hits the windscreen. Just around town, this car is unbelievably smooth. And of course you've got hill hold assist as well, so when you come to a stop you can take your foot off the brake and the car won't actually go anywhere. Surprisingly, even though this is a big car, the turning circle is pretty impressive, which means parking is actually made pretty easy. We've got a pretty tight space here and you've got lines telling us where we're going to go. We're can just go on full lock. Got parking sensors all round as well. We can actually get in the space in one go. Pretty much identical to a C-Class in terms of parking. Not bad for a big car. Steering rack's also quite fast, so it feels surprisingly sporty in a way. Now, because you've got a lot of torque from low down coming out of junctions, the car barely goes above 2000 RPM most of the time. So you do actually get that really lovely wafty feeling. Okay, let's reset our trip computer. We can see what MPG this 2-litre engine gets on the motorway. In the name of emissions, it should do better than a 3-litre. Before we get on the motorway, we've got to do the usual roundabout test. So let's put the car into Sports Plus. System seems to be very slow today. Yep, there we go. Use the pedals myself, get heavier steering, quicker throttle response, bit relaxed traction as well, so if I put my foot down, it sort of slides. You can feel the ESC kind of coming in. It's quite fun actually. It gets up to 70 miles an hour very quickly. Especially for a car that's this heavy and that only has 245 horsepower. Surprisingly fun for a big barge, although it won't go super sideways. For now, we're going to go back into Eco and see what MPG this engine can give us. On the motorway then, this is where you expect the E300 to do pretty well, and yeah, it does amazingly well. As luxury barges go, this has got to be one of the best. That 9-speed gearbox just allows the car to totally chill out on the motorway. At 65 miles an hour now, we're sitting at under 1500 RPM. So you're getting almost no engine noise, you're getting very little wind noise. The only noise I can hear is just a little bit of road noise, and that is mainly due to the fact we're riding on 20-inch wheels. But other than that, this car is so sublime to travel in. I almost feel like I'm going to fall asleep driving this. And not only is the car relaxed, I'm relaxed, purely because these seats are so comfortable. They have plenty of adjustment in them. These ones aren't fully electric, so you have to move them forwards and backwards yourself. But everything else is motorised. Of course, you can adjust the pitch of the base, but the main thing is you can just get really nice and low in the cabin. And the side bolsters hug you just enough that you don't move around in the corners. But once you are on the motorway, they still allow you to move around the seat a bit. And of course, you can actually move the headrest forwards and backwards as well as up and down. And this allows you to have what feels like a pillow behind your head whenever you're driving around. And you might be thinking, yeah, well, of course, I expect the seat to be comfortable. It's a Mercedes. Well, one thing they also do really well is armrests. A lot of other brands pretty much stop at the seat, especially Volvo. For some reason, you don't really get armrests in that car. Whereas this, because you can sit nice and low, you get armrests either side that are the perfect height for my elbows. And it just means I can relax my entire body in the car. Then in terms of visibility, this is probably one of the best cars on the market because it literally doesn't have a B-pillar whatsoever. You've got frameless windows all around the car. And it means if you want to have the windows down as well, you just have this really cool looking opening on the side of the car. Next thing, interior quality. This is where Mercedes can sometimes be a little bit hit and miss with their later cars. This particular E-Class can sometimes be very squeaky in certain places. Thankfully this one is pretty trouble-free, but sometimes you get some squeaks on the door handle and down here as well. But other than that, it's a very nice interior. Of course the open pore wood is really nice, but having stitched leather pretty much everywhere else in the cabin just gives it a little bit of an uplift in terms of quality. Plus the ambient lighting is actually bright enough to see at all times during the day, which is actually not that common amongst other cars. Then pretty much the only other thing you want from a big barge like this is a good speaker system. And because this isn't the Premium or Premium Plus model, you don't get the Burmester system in this car. This is just the standard speaker system, which whilst the grille might not look as nice, the actual quality really isn't that far off the Burmester system, to be honest. It It's missing out a bit of clarity, but the volume is still there. So even if you are an audiophile, I really wouldn't be too fussed about speccing that option. One thing I could do with today is some sunglasses, and thankfully there's a little holder there, but sadly no sunglasses. One other thing that's actually overlooked in a lot of cars is the cup holders. These are placed neatly under a little cover. They also have little grippy bits, so even smaller drinks don't rattle around, and if you do spill a drink, you can actually remove the cup holders themselves and clean underneath them. There's then a little cubby space for your phone as well. Coming off the motorway, how did we do? Well, we managed 39.7 mpg. A lot of that is going to be due to the 9-speed gearbox just keeping us in the lower part of the rev range. But for a car this big and this heavy, that's a pretty impressive figure, and it was still going up. I mean, look, we're at 40.3 now. I think on a long journey you could probably get 44, 45 mpg. And that's a figure I would be perfectly happy with. But now let's see how fast that figure goes down when we get on a B road. Before we get on a B road, let's have another taste of how this car handles a bigger roundabout. So as I said, you can't really get it sideways. It kind of just slides like a four-wheel drift. But it's still pretty good fun, to be fair. I did try and find the traction control settings in this because I kind of wanted to turn it all off, but couldn't actually find it. If anyone knows how to do that, comment below. Right, let's see how we do on a B road. There you go, proper burble then. Sounds quite good, to be fair. And although it's not the fastest car in the world, it still gets up to the national speed limit pretty quickly. It puts a smile on your face without ever scaring you. Bit of a polar opposite to the M4 we reviewed a couple of weeks ago. And it's actually enough fun that I want to go down the B road again. Shifts even give you a little bit of a slap in the back as well. For a big car, it's got a very predictable chassis. Suspension does a really good job of controlling the mass as well. Even though it's quite soft, it does firm up a little bit, it keeps the car flat enough around the corners, and you can actually use the rear wheel drive to push you around a bend. Okay, last time down the B road then. Of course, still in Sports Plus. Steering is also fairly good. Not a lot of feel, but it's very precise. You know what the front wheels are doing. Back over the bump a second time. Again, brakes are very good. They have plenty of feel to them, and you just know that they're going to stop the car. Surprisingly good for a B-road machine. It does the luxury and it does the fun. Just look how well the suspension controls the car around a slower corner. You can really feel the rotation of the chassis. And sometimes you even get nice burbles like that. Plus the engine has plenty of power for overtaking cyclists. Up in the top end of the rev range, you kind of feel it fall a little bit flat when it comes to torque, but it's not too bad. Overall then, where does this car fit? Well, it's more athletic than I thought it'd be, with a rasp from the exhaust on upshifts and a slightly tail-happy rear end. It's genuinely fun on a B-road, and I have to say, a very approachable chassis. Not really any understeer, but not too much oversteer either. Despite its athleticism, this car still does the luxury side of things on another level compared to a C-Class, and in my opinion is well worth the extra couple of grand you'd have to pay for it. As always, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like, and why not subscribe, as not only can you see more reviews like this one, you can also see all the stock we have for sale. Anyway, my name's Tom, and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.